Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Fishel, and welcome to bonus weather video number 2 for this week. And I had a patron earlier today pose this question to me that I've heard all too often over the years. Why is it that we're cold enough for snow when it's dry, and then as soon as we have any moisture come in here, it's not cold enough to snow anymore? Well, there are a number of things that are sort of working against us here in our particular location, so we'll talk about that. So when it's cold enough for snow, we're dry, and then as soon as the moisture comes in, we're not cold enough for snow. So let's talk about some of the reasons as to why that may be the case. Well, number one, we're located pretty far south. We're at about 35 degrees north latitude on average. Raleigh a little bit north of that, and Fayetteville a bit south of that. But basically, we're pretty far south, so it's difficult to get enough cold air all the way down to this latitude so that we can always be cold enough for snow when a storm comes along. Number two, the Gulf Stream lurks off our coast, and even in January, we can have water temperatures around 70 in the Gulf Stream. So any wind that blows from that direction is going to have an enormous impact on coastal temperatures. That effect gradually diminishes as you head inland, but it's still there. In fact, we saw this the other day when it was 70 at North Myrtle Beach and 41 at RDU. So obviously there was a tremendous impact there with the wind coming in off the ocean and warming things up. Now, number three, the rising motion that we need to generate precipitation is oftentimes caused by what we call warm advection. Now, what that is that warm air is trying to move cold air out of the way, and it can't do it because it's less dense than cold air. It's like me being in the boxing ring in the old days with Muhammad Ali. He's the cold air, I'm the warm air. He's always going to win. The only way he's going to lose is if he gives up, okay, and just leaves and walks out of the ring. And so that's what happens when cold air just leaves on its own volition and the warm air says, okay, I'll come in and take your place, okay? But usually it's not that easy. The cold air puts up a fight, and so the warm air has to ride up and over top of that cold, dense air, and that rising motion is what produces the process of rising air, clouds form, precipitation forms, and so forth. And there is warming associated with that process. It's not as much of a process as if the cold air would just give up, but there's still some warming going on there, and usually it's just enough to make the difference between rain and snow. So let's put 5 isotherms up here. These are lines of equal temperature, and we're going to call the middle one the rain-snow line, and we're going to put Raleigh one dotted line north of that rain-snow line. So before any storm comes along, we're cold enough to snow. Well, now we have an area of low pressure form, and by the way, I had to make it yellow just for it to stand out. Meteorologists never make lows yellow, but I did it here for artistic purposes. All right, so the counterclockwise flow around that low is going to transport cold air south on the west side of the low and warm air northward on the east side of the low. And again, there's warming going on. It's not as significant as it would be as if the cold air would just give up, but the cold air is grudgingly giving way, and because it's grudgingly giving way, that warm air is forced to ride up and over top of it. And so that rising motion produces clouds and precipitation, but it also produces warming, and when you're that close to the rain-snow line, you ain't got no room to play with, and usually that warming process is just enough to get us over the hump and, unfortunately for snow lovers, end up with a rain event as opposed to a snow event. The only way we can avoid this issue is if the cold air gets way, way far south, like let's say all the way down to Florida, and then we've got some room to play with, okay? We can tolerate some warming and still get away with getting snow, but that doesn't happen all that terribly often. And so this is the basic problem for a snow lover in central and eastern North Carolina, sad as it is. All right, that's it for today. Bonus weather video number 2. We'll have another one for you next Tuesday and the next daily weather update coming up on Monday. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you then. Take care. Or talk to you Monday. Take care.